Hi guys, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we are going to work with the persistent volume. So we are going to create a pod number 8, but then before you proceed further, first go to OPT software storage. If you're already in there, then good enough. Create a folder called 10. So this is indicating it's a part 10, or you can create it as P10 as well. So it depends on how you would like it. Now, why we are creating folders? Because we're going to create multiple files, which, as I told you on the introduction class, we may need to create multiple files to start with, and then while going forward, we will add it as part of the same file, or we can do it in a different way. But to start with, we will create 3 different files. So to have a common folder for that, this is kind of useful. So create a folder called P10, and all the course related this particular related, the coding for that is in the part 10 of your mastering storage under the GitHub. Once you have created this, just do a vi P10, and then inside that you just create the first file called storage -pv1.yaml. Now, what this pv1 is going to be abbreviating to is it's going to be a persistent volume. That's why we are giving it as pv1. For the second file, we will create pvc1, in which means that it's a persistent volume claim, which is going to claim the persistent volume. So let's just vi and then copy paste the content or the code from this. Now, why I don't type this code manually is because it wastes a lot of time, and these are something which everyone knows, like how to type this YAML file. And there are a lot of examples all over the internet. And if I start typing this one line by line, it's going to take a long time. And it's just going to increase the time frame of the video and the total course. But then when you go through that, it would be very much frustrating for you to listen to everything which I type. So here I have the copy-pasted version of the persistent volume. And here you have the definition of the persistent volume, which is a kind persistent volume. Under that, we have given the name of the persistent volume as my PV. And then I've also given a label over here, as in the name label is going to be my -pv. It's the same name which is reflecting over here. But then I want that to be also specified as part of the label as well. I've given type as local, saying that it's a local file system. And I've also given a capacity of 1 GB. And I have given the volume mode as file system. As I told you, there are 2 options over here, file system or block. Block is something which we cannot use at this moment. So we will use file system. In terms of access mode, read write once, because that's the only access mode available for host path. As you have seen on the previous architecture video, I've explained you why we have this only one available. In terms of persistent volume reclaim policy, it's retain. So it would be retaining the the data which is going to be created by the persistent volume claim, and you can also come back and attach it with the same storage if it feels like a new container is created or the pod is recreated. In that situation, it can retain that volume. And in terms of the storage class path, it's going to be manual, so that's no change there. And here in the storage class path, here basically it is a static assigning towards your pod. It's not dynamic. So we will talk about dynamic allocation later point of time. In terms of host path, we have given /mnt/pv. So that's basically your host path. Do remember that this host path should be on everywhere, everywhere except for your, except for your master or manager host. But if you're planning to create any kind of a configuration, or in the future, if you're planning to create a pod on your manager as well, then you may have to create this path there as well. Okay, but as of now, we don't have any plans of creating it in that way. But when we do that, we will talk about it. So these are the specific configuration in terms of your PV. Let's go and create the PVC1 file. Now this PVC1 will have the configuration of your persistent volume claim. Again, the file details are already in your GitHub page. So go ahead and copy paste the same thing from there to here. Now in this file, it says the kind as PVC, as in a persistent volume claim. And the name I've given here is my PVC. There is no specific label over here because we will be directly calling the my PVC label when you are actually doing the claim on your deployment. So in terms of specification, the access mode should be straight. It needs to be set as similar as what you have set it on the PV. And the storage requirement and the storage request size should also be matching what is specified as part of your PV configuration. So if you have not given the selector as my PV as a label, it will be using these two variables to compare it and then select that as the PV. The storage class name is going to be manual, as in like there's no storage class name or file we're going to dedicatedly create at this moment because it is a static allocation. All right, so that's done. Awesome. So let's go to the next file, which is your deployment, which is going to be p10 storage pod 8.yaml. So this file is going to contain the deployment. So that's basically what I'm going to copy paste it from my GitHub page. Again, you can do the same. And here I have the deployment defined as a kind, and the application name or the deployment name is going to be my app. And here it has one replica at this moment. That's enough. In terms of matching label, it's going to match the pod which runs with the label name app, my app. And then here is a pod definition to its template. And here you have the pod labeling, which says my app. And then in terms of the container definition, you can see my app container. That's the name of your container with the image name of Nginx. And you can see the volume which is mounted on it, which is mounted on your default document root. And this talks about your my volume. And the my volume definition, or the volume definition, which is under the pod level, as you can see, is going to be my volume and the persistent claim for that particular name, the my PVC. This is the same persistent claim which you have seen earlier when we have configured the persistent claim volume. Persistent volume claim. Go ahead and save this file. So this file is also good to go. All you have to do is like go control apply -F. But before we do that, we will do a watch so that it will watch pods, PV, and PVC. It won't be watching deployment, but you don't have to worry about that. And here on the worker nodes, we will just do troubleshooting later point of time when we have some information on where this particular pod or deployment is getting hosted. Let's deploy the PV. So the way of deploying is PV, PVC, and deployment. If you're going to do deployment first, then it'll be looking for the PVC, and PVC will not be existing. So it's always good to go from the PV, PVC, and deployment or replica object or whatever, the stateful object or whatever. You're going to do that. So this is how you can execute it. Yes, you can execute a file within a folder, so you don't have to like switch to that folder and then execute it there. You can rather give it like this, like folder name and then the file name inside it. So this is going to create a persistent volume, and you can see that right now. This is currently is available as a state right now because there's nothing binded to it at this moment. And as you can see, this is your persistent volume, my PV, that's the name of it. It is assigned with 1 GB of data. It is with the read and write once. That's the access mode. And the reclaim policy is read-in. The status is available. The claim is manual. That's your, that's your storage class. And then you have the volume attribute class unset. We will talk about it later. Age is 45 seconds. It's been 45 seconds since it has created. Volume mode is file system. And the label is my PV and type local. So this is basically what the persistent volume which we just created. Let's go create the second one, which is my PVC, which is the name of it, but the file name of it is storage-pvc1.yaml file. Once we have created it, you can see that the status of the PV has changed from available to bound, which means that there's someone just bounding, which is bounded to this particular persistent volume. Sorry about the background voice. Persistent volume claim over here, my PVC bound, and as you can see, the name of the volume, my PVC, where it is bounded, you can see that this PVC is bounded to my PV, which is the persistent volume, and you can see over here that in the status, you can see that it is basically bounded to my PVC. So the relationship is there. That's what I wanted to show you about the relationship, and the relationship is perfectly defined here in both these situations. Here, the access mode is RWO. We're not going to do any troubleshooting in this video, but later point of time, we're going to do a lot of troubleshooting and look at different statuses. So don't worry about it. Manual is basically a storage class, and the volume attribute class is not set. And then the age is 70 seconds since it's been launched. And the volume type is file system. And as of now, I'm not assigning any labels to it, so that's why the labels are done. Sorry, I had to pause the video. I got a call, so just got to spend some time there. So so let's apply the next one, which is going to be our deployment, just pod 8.yaml file. So this is going to create our deployment. And you can see that a pod has been created right now. It's in work2 right now, and it's currently in running state. Now, what you can understand from that, from these things, is that you have created the PV over here, and you have also assigned bounded your my PV to your PV. My PVC, as in like the persistent volume claim is also bounded towards your persistent volume, and that persistent volume claim, which is bounded to your PV, is attached to your pod as well. Let's verify all these information. So let's just go kubectl describe. The first thing we're gonna understand is the pod. Why we understand the pod? Because we are trying to communicate or connect from the end, from the pod level to the PVC to the PV. That's how it's easier to understand. So when I go to the describe of your pod, you can see that the volume which is attached to this pod is from something called a persistent volume claim. And from here, it's a reference to your persistent volume claim as in the same namespace. So you can see that the claim name which you are declaring over here is my PVC. It's this one over here. That's your persistent volume claim over here. And read only is false. We have not enabled read only. It is read write once. That's the mode which it is enabled right now. The next thing is that you can see that this particular volume is mounted in the name of my volume. That's the name of your volume, my volume. That's your persistent volume claim. And that is currently mounted on user share nginx HTML. That's where it is mounted on, with read and write privileges. On top of this, you have the container running. So that's basically your container definition over here. So that container has that information. So pretty much this is what you will see in your pod description. And let's talk about your PVC description. Let's just clear the screen. In terms of your PVC description, you see it is the name has the my PVC. That's the first thing. And the namespace is default. That's the default namespace which you're going to have. Storage class is manual. Status here is bound. So which is a good, it is bounded to whom? It is bounded to my PV. That's the volume it is mounted to. There's no label. And there is this two donations over here, which is talking about bind completed and bind by controller. Yes. And then here is the finalizer. It talks about PVC protection. Here, capacity, access mode. what volume it uses. And used to by is basically the PVC ID. So this is basically the ID of the PV ID. So sorry, not PVC ID, it's PV ID. So this is used by this particular ID. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm so sorry. This is the ID of your, your pod. So that's the one over here. I got confused. Sorry about that. Used to by tells you about the pod information. So this is basically has the pod complete detail of your pod over here. That's the used to by, and there's no event at this moment. Okay, so now let's just do a describe on your persistent volume. That is your PV. When you see the PV, so you can see some details of your PV from here, and the name is the first detail and the labels. And then it is bound by controller, yes. And then you have the finalizer. And then the storage class, status, claim, who is actually claimed this particular PV. As well as the retain policies, your read, write only. So that's the mode. I'm sorry, read, write once. And then the access mode is file system. Capacity is 1 GB. Node affinity is none. We will talk about it later. And then in terms of messages, you can see the host path. That's basically how you have configured your PV using the host path configuration. And which path you have declared as part of your host path is /mnt PV. And the host path type, you have not declared the type of your host path type because it doesn't require any type at this moment. There's no events. So these are some of the information which you will see. The one extra information is what you saw over here. You saw that it is used by this particular pod. So which means that when I do a redeployment or this particular VM crashes, if it generates a new pod, then obviously it will be associated with that new pod as well. All right, so that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. And when I do a curl command, obviously it's not going to work. It's going to come up with 403 forbidden exception because there's no home folder. As it is residing on worker 2, so go to /mnt. You won't even have the folder there. So this is host path, so which means that should be having, okay, so it has created the PV. So here, cat index.html, like this is default file. All right, let's just give this curl now so you can see that this is default file. So because it is taking from the host path, it needs to be declared wherever that particular pod is deployed. This is the difference between NFS and host path mode, which we have already seen on the previous video. Okay, so in the previous videos, we must have understood the difference. This is just showcasing the same thing on a PV and PVC. Thank you again for watching this video. In the next video, we will see NFS, and then we will try to complicate it, and we will try to troubleshoot issues, create issues, and trouble the storage side of PV and PVC on these further down the line videos. Thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.